Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another season of the Welsh Esports League. I'm GoluMolu, happy to be back for another full season of Rainbow Six Siege action. And joining me, it's going to be a fresh face. Pastor the Caster, off to my left.
That's me.
Welcome to the show. Another member for our Esports Wales family over here. And, it should be a pretty interesting start to the season, Cameron, right? We have two best of one matchups for you tonight. The same format you're used to if you've been a fan, joined us previously on seasons of Esports Wales. And the first matchup, it's Red Kites, our reigning champions. I will say, I'll put my hands up, last season, I said they were going to lose the final. But not only did they win, they beat, right? They beat their opponent so hard, right? They beat them so hard.
They beat them so hard. Okay. Oh, and he's gone.
Sorry about that.
There he
Internet
is.
issues.
Okay.
They beat them so hard. They beat the Goats so badly that they have not turned up to this new season. They pulverized them in the end. I mean, it was a 2-1 victory, a very, very good game. Arguably the greatest series we've had. And they're going to be back to take on newcomers Rhonda Rising. But before we jump into our game, Cameron, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here. I'm now also officially a member of not just Esports Wales, but Wales in general. The university life is great so far. I can imagine that my outlook might change in the next few weeks, but as for right now, we're doing well. We're doing well. And yeah, I'm very excited for this game. Very excited for this league as well, Ben. I can't wait to jump in.
Yeah, and of course it is best of ones to start off the season. We have a group stage, we work through our group stage, and then it goes to the top two teams from each group respectively. Group A and B will play in the semi-finals to find out who will then be in our grand finals, and the grand finals is our best of three series. So that's the series that's a little bit longer, test the team's map pool a little bit deeper. And Cam, our first map up this evening, it's going to be that clubhouse. It's going to be a very standard map, but I think that makes a lot of sense. Beginning of a brand new season, these teams want to just slowly work their way in, find their footing, especially when you're looking at someone like Rhonda Rising, who, they're a fresh set of faces, new players coming in.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense that we do see Clubhouse. Like you say, it's a very standard map, these teams. They should know their way around this, which means, there's potential that we will see a very close game, but it does also mean that if any of these teams, let's face it, it's probably going to be more expected of Rhonda Rising. But, you never know. If any of these teams do struggle with the fundamentals, they will get really exposed on this map because there isn't really a lot of wiggle room like you'd see in maybe some others.
The bands coming through are looking somewhat expected. I'm not thrown off by seeing the Yang and the Montaigne operators that it would make sense you'd want to get rid of for both sides. Monty, obviously, shields are in an absolute state right now as a firm shield enjoyer. I think I'm going to have to be the first person to own up to that. Right, I do like shield a lot. I love playing shield. It's very much a guilty pleasure. But you get rid of that Monty, it's going to save you a lot of hassle. The Tube Realm is the one that's quite interesting to me because I really like seeing teams come up with innovative plays to try and lock down the breaches. You're thinking the hatches when playing basement. You're thinking your external walls when playing either side of the top floors, right? You kind of want to extend and have that whole top floor presence, and having the Zotos enables you to really slow down and mess with your attackers. But that's gone away. It makes getting these hatches a lot easier. And you're seeing sort of change from the Red Kites to meet that. They're going to be bringing out a little bit more of a roam-heavy style of play. They've got things like the Legion to slow down any potential rush plays. It's particularly weak to that blue if you do leave too little players on site. But the Vigil, the Valkyrie, lots of roaming potential and, more importantly, information running around. So I'm excited to see what they cook up.
Yeah, and one interesting thing about this Vigil, actually, is that they have the K1A. Normally what we've been seeing, in at least a bit of a trend recently, is that BOSG being utilised by the players on Vigil. But speaking of the Vigil, they're going very early here for a spawn peak opportunity. Unfortunately, not able to land it, but some warning shots fired off early on, and you got to think that maybe that's also a bit of a mental thing. Obviously, Red Kites, we know the prowess that they have, but Rhonda Rising are some new faces, and that could be the sort of thing that just gets in their head at this very early stage. Because let's face it, if you start to get spawn peaked immediately in round 1, you're going to be playing a little bit more scared.
Drones as well, so trying to come through, catch out the lesion on that staircase. It's very start to get pressure coming. Walking the queue for Billy Ray to drop back down to the site. I think for the defense, you're quite happy with the progress so far. You're a minute in. Well, you mess with the attack a little bit. They are now starting to come through and clear out the verticality. Of course, they got the Rams as well, and those boogies should be thrown down pretty swiftly to start that verticality. On a way over now and trying to open hatches, prepare for base.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to see this execute starting to come through, and they do have plenty of time, but YMB could still be an issue upstairs, using the RC7 just to keep themselves hidden from the drones as well. And a potential backstab later, although unfortunately the gadget not activated at that moment in time, so the information has been fed over, but there's still a lot of presence over here on the main stairs, Ben.
Opening pick now, taking down Soul Reaper, so you're losing a bit of the destructibility on the Zofia, but still waiting. This kitchen hatch closed down is going to be a real problem for them to try and contest with, especially as the round goes on. But Billy Ray gets a bit over aggressive and is punished for it over by the main stairs. So you now have that avenue to start transitioning downstairs. But Cameron, what's this? Lurking away on the top floor for the entirety of the round. There's now 40 seconds, and the Vigil's going to sneak back downstairs to try and lend some support. Nomad taken down on blue. So that is that pressure point just completely ripped away from Rhonda Rising.
Yeah, even though the air jab went off, the player already dealt with over on that side of the map. Red Kites themselves are in a very good position. Polar, the player inside of Moto, finding a second kill as well. It's all on to CJ in this final round. And why not a third for Polar? Just give them all of the kills. And it's a solid first round here for the Red Kites.
And I mean, you know, they're able to sit down in the basement. They can be comfortable. They hold on tight. There's not much for them to worry about, right? I mean, ultimately, very little threat comes through.
Yeah, it was a very solid round. I think one of the main things there was it just came down to the time, really, Ben. Like, you have the Vigil upstairs, and honestly, getting spotted on the drone was kind of perfect, because then, again, you had that worry in the back of the minds of Rhonda Rising, and it's the same thing, like I said, with the spawn peak at the start of that round as well. It just keeps on building, and the mental factor is going to be a massive part of this.
And especially when you get that early round under the belt, and with how comfortable it ended up being, right? That freedom to move on that. Right, Vigil chilling until the very end of the round, and not really being required to come through for the team's victory. It's always going to be difficult at the start of the season when you're as in this opening game of the season, right? They're able to just have a little bit more of a relaxed air in the voice cons. They're not quite being put to that same level of pressure yet. Mute's been locked out. It's not ideal, but going to red stairs instead, rotate, creating a new pathway to get back to safety.
There you go. Problem solving 101. And there's problems to be solved here for the attack as well. Namely, this electrocution. Vex just standing there, I don't think was aware of the Twitch drone. Now is. The EMP comes out as well. The Twitch drone wasn't quite able to get the zap. There is no denial to come through on that breach, though, which means Rhonda Rising got themselves a very easy breach. Unfortunately, not quite the catch. Polar there playing the mirror, getting a little bit cheeky, and unfortunately CJ just hadn't quite set up the angle to collect on that kill.
Breach open. Still a little bit of electrification, but that's not really going to matter, right? You've done the hard job. There is a mirror window looking behind it, and you have a Selma that can maybe try and contest it, but Ace currently on the other side of the map, trying to work away at this extended hold that the Red Kites have set up for themselves. And, I mean, Castle in a bit of an aggressive position here. There's no deployable shield to try and lend you that safety. Using the drone hold to try and get that shot on the foot, but can't quite land those shots. Gives away the position, but you have plenty of support just to wait patiently. There's very little rush here for Billy Ray to make a move.
Yeah, it's still just sitting on those stairs waiting, but Boybach coming in and finding the pick. That's a lovely kill to find, and it's the opener for Rhonda Rising. There is an issue though, and it's that time again. Only 70 seconds left in this round, and they've only really just gotten control of CCTV. Still not entirely sure if they can go into cash, and indeed they can't. Godless is here with a shotgun up close, does spot the player, unfortunately a bit too far away, positions himself to instead look over towards the red stairs, has an SMG-11 as well. That can be pretty deadly at long range. It's a very nice weapon to use. But the net is starting to tighten on this Red Kite side. They don't know about the position here of Vex, though. Finding one. Can they get the second? Yes, they can. Shutting things down. Kitas does find one elsewhere, which means we're now in a 3 versus 3. CJ collecting again. Rhonda Rising, they have the advantage, but again, the timer is starting to tick away, starting to get away from them. YNB takes a swing out from behind the mirror window, ill-advised, and Vex cannot hold on against 3 Rhonda Rising players. They tie up the scoreline here, Ben. It's 1 round apiece.
It's good to get that first attacking win under your belt, and I really liked their approach to trying to attack into it, right? They made sure that they paid appropriate respect over towards the cash extension. You get that sweep coming through with the ace, with the ash. It is a bit awkward having both those two operators on the far side when you're trying to sort of pry away at the mirror window stuck behind bathroom. You saw that was not really to be a big impact, and it took them a little bit more longer to get through that jacuzzi breach as a result of it. But ultimately, I don't think that's too big an issue, right? I mean, you eventually get there, they start sweeping through, and a little bit of over-aggression from Red Kites, perhaps, right? We saw in the last round, the thing that really worked out for them was just sitting back, never having to make that move. Whereas this time around, when you're forced into that action a little bit earlier, and credit to Rhonda Rising for forcing them to move out of position if they want to sort of keep holding on.
Indeed. Indeed. Very similar setup here this time, but no Fenrir. Instead, YNB has switched over to playing the Melusi. I believe that is the only switch up for this round. Obviously, we're in the same site again. Vex with the Electric Claw in a very similar position. So, Red Kites, they feel like they have at least a winning formula, have changed things up slightly, but for the most part, everything's the same. Billy Ray's actually inside of Garage, though, this time, Ben, in the rafters.
You want to try and contest just a little bit earlier, but just waiting. I mean, it's a dangerous spot to be in with no utility, right? Normally you'd see like an Azami playing here, but obviously that's banned away as shots immediately coming up towards you on rafters. You have nowhere safe to sit. Damage taken very early on. Has to drop away. Gonna drop into oil pit. Okay, you take a bit of damage, but you get with your life. And I mean, ultimately, I think you're pretty happy with that exchange there, right? Like,
I'd say
it's a bit
so.
awkward to maybe get back towards site, but basically no punishment for what is kind of a silly play.
Yeah, it's a very silly play. The other thing as well is, again, it's starting to waste some of that time because Rhonda is still going to have to now try and clear that position themselves. Soul Reaper's taken a lot of damage on this window. Meanwhile, thanks to a C4, and nearly lines up that shot, but can't quite find it. And another player just also up close. I believe that's Vex. Yes, not using the TCSG, which is the more common pick. Instead, well, the stun goes in, but at the minute it's just a waiting game. Neither of these players feeling like they can really be the ones to go for the swing here, Ben.
Still putting pressure from the mainstairs window, just looking for an opportunity to get that team the opening pick. trying on the outside highway as well. But again, Redkite's doing a much better job of not sort of over-moving. They're staying slow, they're keeping their head down. With top red still contested as well, it's reinforced off, given this false sense of security as Billy Ray gets the opening pick, takes down Soul Reaper. Now a little bit concerned to see what they can do without it. That's the main stairs going down. They have to try and find a way to rotate in, but as they push into the jacuzzi breach, Polar gets one as well.
No.
The flank coming through for Season as 2, as Keats also dies. Everything's slipping apart for the Rhonda Rising. There's some damage coming in from outside. Has to back away from the con window, just respecting the pressure.
Yeah, you've got to respect that pressure. Finally, something going the way of Rhonda Rising, but it's not even a kill, just a down. Ninja onto Godless. That is still at least something. Billy Ray, though, collecting on the trade. It's a 1 versus 5. Technically a 1v4 if you think about it, but Godless getting revived. Finally, there's something going back for CJ, but this is an impossible task, and, well, now it's shut out entirely. Vex with the closer, and Red Kites regain their lead, stamping a bit of authority on this game after the way that round 2 went.
And it's important for them to do that, right? You have a slip up, you make sure you regain control of the series and show what you can actually do on Gym, right? And I think you're fine to have a little bit of a stumble. 2-1 after the first 3 rounds is a perfectly fine position to be in. You're going to get to run back down to Church and Arsenal Room and try and figure things out from there. Again, I'm expecting this to be another very well-held defensive site. The Vigil not making a reappearance, though, so perhaps indicating that they felt that while the roam was handy, Rhonda Rising ultimately weren't getting caught up on this Vigil running around, this Phantom to find. It was much more tied to the fact that they didn't have that clear game plan for what they wanted to do to the basement site itself. And by leaning more into the utility, they're adding that Fenrir to the lineup now. That's going to be a bigger thorn in the side for Rhonda Rising, who now need to contend with the fact that they're going to be nearsighted as they try and walk down into the bomb site. That extra layer of threat ultimately leaning into what's the real crux here for Rhonda Rising, what's actually going to be causing them issues, and just make this round a little bit smoother for the Red Kites to pick up.
Yeah, if they can get this 3rd round, they set themselves into a very good position for the second half. Obviously, in Siege at the minute, you're kind of expecting maybe a 3-3, maybe a 4-2 for the defense, so if they can get 3 rounds in 4, we're even still looking at the possibility of a 5-1. So going on to your attacks, that's just a little bit of extra leeway that you would need, but that is a bit of a way in the distance right now, as Rhonda Rising themselves are setting up for this round, setting up for this attack, and it kind of feels like a bit of a must-win round. Maybe not quite leaning that direction yet, it's only a 3-1 scoreline, but the mental factor that can play is huge. This hatch onto blue getting opened up already, and I thought maybe Boybark was going to get caught out from those blue stairs, but instead that is not the case. Able to get away with that one, and now the rotation back to site is going to get caught out. Oh, just sprints away at the wrong time, and Godless from the below taking that pick. The nice shot recognized in chat. We love a bit of class, but the outcome is the same. Rhonda Rising, a player down.
So this Fenrir trying to come upstairs, cause some issues, spray a couple of shots, but ultimately recognizing that keeping yourself alive is the most important thing you can do in the situation, especially when you got these FNATs that you can move around to adapt to the attack that does eventually come through. You can see the one that's active currently looking towards blue, but the focus much more towards this kitchen hatch, much more towards main stairs. And there's already ones placed down above Moto, above main stairs to deal with this push coming through. So being able to move another round, much more important than risking your life on the roam. And again, keep those bodies alive. You have the MPs, but you've lost your Habanas. That hatch is going to stay closed. The options here for Rhonda Rising and how they want to get into the site are so limited now.
Yeah, limited options. And again, maybe a bit of a limited game plan for this site. The Zofia stuns coming in yet again, explosions as well to try and open up more areas, but it's also giving Godless another opportunity to go for some of these peaks, and they've been feeling themselves so far, particularly in this round with the only kill in it so far. As the flashbangs come in though, this is the pressure that they want to apply, but Vex is up close, they don't know about it. That's 2. kills onto these players, and it stunted the push yet again. A third! Threading the needle, closes it out with 4, and it's a flawless round coming through for the Red Kites. Unbelievable gameplay there, and Vex holding everything down from just that one single position.
And Cam, that's why it's so important to keep your hard breaches alive. We're being silly with our lives. We're bringing no insurance on our utility either. You don't get that moto hatch open, and Vex can sit on an amazing cross angle. They know that you're going to have to try and hard push into this mirror window. They know they can set up a crossfire from a very comfortable position. I love the way that they just make that slight maneuver. You see the flashbangs flying on through, the confidence rising for Rhonda, and they just charge at it. Completely unaware that the side angle is going to be checked, no one peeking in, no one looking at it. It hasn't even crossed their mind that we could see such an aggressive positioning from Red Kites to keep themselves safe. And again, we had no other entry option. Dirt, completely closed off. That's not a threat for the Red Kites. There's no one pushing down blue to try and get that crossfire angle, despite that being your only hatch open, despite that being a real opportunity to try and divert the attention, especially when there's no hard breach available left for you, and you're down in a 4 versus 5. You need to try and find creative ways to offset that numbers disadvantage. And ultimately, Red Kites, again, very well disciplined in holding their positions, sat a little bit further forward and baited Rhonda Rising in.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that as well is that Polar was playing in that exact same position in that previous round. Oh, I thought the spawn peak was going to come through there from the sounds of things. Ben, you did as well, but well, YMB just goes away at the wrong time, or I guess the right time if you're on the Rising. But back to my previous point, like, the Polar was playing in that exact same position and still was able to get a couple of kills. Here goes the EMP though onto this main breach. I don't know if Vex is going to be able to get the trick there, and indeed no. Out goes the Selma charge, Thermite exothermic as well. An open route, open passage into the bomb site right now for Rhonda Rising, and they have the sight lines as well. This is why CCTV cache can often be a very difficult site to defend if you are, well, playing the defense on this map. It's because you have that one external wall and it can completely cut your defense in two, and it allows the attack a very easy opportunity to make their way in. The question is going to be, Ben, are Rhonda Rising going to be able to capitalize on this advantage that they have?
Trying to gather that information, move slowly through the rest of this map, just to make sure their backs are kind of covered, right? 2 in flanking positions, dropping into Logi, you kind of cut away the hard work, right? You're not pushing through Jacuzzi and making sure you're set up, and now just challenging from the breach, Billy Ray able to just win out his one. I mean, you could argue you're not expecting the Umai to take such an aggressive position, but at the same time, there's nothing to stop him, right? You're not actually posing any damage. Another drop into Logi immediately dismantled, and now they're just starting to fall apart. Finally able to get the pick onto the Legion, but still well aware the Doc was causing problems behind them. A bit of damage dealt onto the bomb site, but it's been slowed down.
Yeah, Polar's able to rotate in, find a pick, and get themselves out again. I believe that was onto Eagle playing the Buck over inside of Bedroom. And that was a 3 versus 1. Godless again finding the pick onto Boybuck for at least 2 rounds in a row. Kitas, the player left in the clutch situation, doesn't have the diffuser, but was able to find that trade onto Godless. But now destroying the barricade that has been heard. Hop now in. Is able to find a bit of passage, baiting that rotation out and finding the kill as well onto Polar. It's now down to a 1 versus 1, but they're playing up against Vex. 4 kills in the previous round. A massive player. 8-1 currently in terms of the KD. And look at this time, Ben. There's only 10 seconds left heading into red time. If Vex is able to find a good C4 and is able to land it, but no, instead, finding the wrong position. Kitas playing up close. What a clutch that is. Playing it perfectly to get the round for Rhonda Rising.
But I'm just confused what the plan was from Red Kites at the end. We're in a 3v1, right? We don't have that information on the Ash. Let's play it slow. We can hold on to positions. We have 1 on red. We have Doc chilling on rafters, and we have construction players. We can use this to get information, sound cues on any potential entry. That could be played tighter, but you have to give the credit to Keats, who just perfectly picks them apart, right? Spots the dog, guns him down, then makes that educated guess that they're not going to be holding Crush from the window, makes that aggressive step, forces the round, forces the action. It's how you have to play out a clock situation, especially on the attack, when the onus is still on you to play for that clock. No information on where that plant's going to go down as well. There's no cams in sight. So trying to hold below for this Nitro, you're basically relying on your opponent picking one set spot. They go for the default next to the server rack, but when you're the player with the site control, why would you go into a position that effectively leaves you with nothing afterwards? Really, really well done by Keats to get aggressive, play for kills, find them, and then pick a good spot at the end. Really, really cleanly done.
Yeah, very nicely done, and it's given a bit of a lifeline here to Rhonda Rising. Red Kites are opting to not, in fact, go back towards Gym Bedroom, a site that they were able to win out previously, instead re-attempting over here on CCTV Cash. Now that is certainly a decision. I would say interesting, but we all know what that means. Instead, Red Kites are hoping to hold this a little bit better. They are again preempting some sort of clear over from logistics and this jacuzzi breach, and well, they're reading it correctly. Billy Ray was over inside of Logi, falling back a little bit more to help with the team, but it has given a little bit of control over. Thanks to that construction wall being opened though, it does still give them lines of sight onto the hatch drop, and that's possibly the most important part. That's when you're most vulnerable as an attacker. Breach opened yet again, and Boybuck trying to find some picks, not wanting to be caught out 2 rounds in a row, but the drone has been jammed up by the mute. Information being denied, and it makes it a little bit easier here for the Red Kites.
And again, very little priority being put onto clearing out Garage.
Yeah.
I'm expecting this means that they want to then go for that construction single wall again. This time, they're putting that priority onto Jacuzzi, but they're not looking at main stairs. And Godless grabs a kill, runs away into the wind. I mean, you lose your buck. You still got plenty of self-destruction. You've got the explosives on the Zophir's grenade launcher, so you can still try and open up a couple of rotations for yourself if you need to. Already throwing a smoke out onto Red, just trying to obscure some vision. It forces a swing from the cat cam, but they're not quite ready to land the shots. And now I'm looking at the rest of this round, a potential run out of Garage. At the very least, that sound is going to be given over. There's a second smoke goes into Red. Is this where you want to go? Is this your aggression signal? And yes, it is.
The push-in is not really fortuitous here for Rhonda Rising. Boybuck goes down, and Soul Reaper still only on 5 HP. Just a gust of wind, and that player will go down. And that's a 5v2 situation at that point. If you are Red Kites, is certainly a brilliant position to find yourself in. Soul Reaper, though, is trying to get the catch. Godless, though, just a little bit better. Ketis in the 1v5. Had to pull out magic in the previous, but this time, well, it's not going to be. Billy Ray closes things out, and a very standard 4-2 half here for the Red Kites, but I argue that the way that was achieved was not very standard at all, GoluMolu.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's really much that you can take from the Red Kites as they're playing that right. I think Rhonda Rising ultimately just don't have that checklist. They don't know what they're doing on that attack, and it felt very botched, right? They got construction open, and then they're just throwing smokes into Red. It's actions that have zero end goal coming from them, right? Like, what are you hoping to achieve by dropping a smoke into Red? We're not using that, like, we're not using the fact that you can't see through the doorway now because of the smoke to challenge onto, like, rafters or anything, right? We're not putting any additional pressure onto rafters to actually try and get that space for yourself. We're pushing over towards logistics, but we're not having the drones go ahead, so we don't quite know where we're going. It feels like Rhonda Rising are just trying to juggle a little bit too much in a lot of these attacks, and that is holding them back a little bit, right? They're not putting all their resources into one objective, which I think is always the way that, we talked about this last season throughout games, especially in the earlier portions. I think when you're a new team coming together, when you're trying to find your footing, your best bet is to just put everything in one basket, right? you can set as a 5-man team and say, our objective right now is we're going to clear out Garage. We're going to do this one thing together and just get that communication flowing. They've come out of their attacking half with 2 round wins. And you know what? I think that's a pretty good start for them. Red Kites are a tough team. It's a good result to get 2 rounds off of them. Now you've got to look at what you can do on your defensive half, and they're immediately jumping up the gym, extending out in towards Cash. But we're seeing Red Kites already a much better pacing at how they want to approach this, and this is what just shows from a team that's just drilled it. They've just done it before a little bit more. We're already seeing pressure opening up that server wall into Cash, forcing back off of the connector wall, that mirror window ready to kind of be exposed. You need to start playing around it. But already working at these walls, starting to put Rhonda Rising on the back foot so early in.
Yeah, and you can really see that the pressure's kind of getting to them a little bit. Kitas is just so antsy on their feet as the opening pick comes in there from Godless again, who's having an incredible game in terms of the entry stats, by the way. It's not going great for the defense. I feel like understatement of the century. And some more information coming through as well. C4 catches on the breach. Some little moments that just kind of sum up the way that this game has been going for Rhonda Rising so far, but they're being put under immense amounts of pressure by this attack. Some of that, though, alleviated by Kitas, who is really being the shining light here for Rhonda Rising, getting that pick and keeping things even at a 4 versus 4.
The Nitro has already been used. This would have been a perfect time to try and throw it out onto that breach, but still, Thatcher Thermite tagged up together. You're just waiting to see what they're going to come up with next. Throwing the electrical onto the wall as the Thatcher just runs in with the suppressive fire from Polar behind. They get the kill, and Billy Ray just keeps plunging deeper into sight.
Oh, Godless with a double and Billy Ray again. It's all up to Kitas, that power player, the one who has had to clutch up before for them. It was a 1v3, and it's a 1v3 here now. Shut down, and the Doc cannot revive. Polar gets that kill, but things started to look a little bit scary there, Ben. Just a bit of a better connection onto the player that swings from construction, and suddenly that's a 1 versus 1 in a very dangerous situation.
I think you have to look at how Red Kites are pushing into this in the dying seconds, though, right? Because it's a really good concerted effort. They have 2 players on breach. They know that the swing's going to come in from behind the mirror window. They know for a fact that the kite is there. And obviously, when you have that slug shotgun, it's a very hard weapon to try and pre-fire with because it's a slug shotgun, right? It's effectively a DMR, a little bit harder to do. So you're going to pre-fire as you walk on in. That keeps the Thatcher covered, denies the information, and then you can start pushing very quickly in. And as this happens, they collapse on the backside, having found that pick very early on onto Boyback. Because, I mean, ultimately, it was just that little bit of pressure, right? They open up so many walls, they sit back, and they wait for someone on Rhonda Rising to give open that pick. Just that pressure slowly builds, a couple of spray shots. Someone's going to get that trigger finger. They're going to feel just that slight itch to make a move, to try and do anything. They get punished for it, and that opens up the backside. They hit both at the same time. The rest of the defense split between 2 directions and couldn't quite pick which one to prioritize. And ultimately, Billy Ray just doing a great job at asserting that dominance. Quickly walking in, never hesitating.
Indeed. So, for these sides, we'll see Red Kites, they look like they're in the driver's seat right now. And the stakes for that overall here in Group A of the Welsh Esports League Season 6, you want to try and get that top 2, and with 7 teams in the league, one of the groups is going to have 4, and one of them is going to have 3. This is the group that has 4 teams in it, so more opportunity to get points, but also there's a higher chance that you end up in that lower portion. It's a 50% compared to just a third, so all of these points are very, very necessary, although you would kind of think that Red Kites are a bit of a guarantee to make it through to that playoff stage anyway. It is still something to be considered. Rhonda Rising, they need to start getting points on the board, and soon. Red Kites may not be that game, but the second round is in just an hour's time, so, you know, if this game goes particularly badly, then how's the mental going to fare for that next round? As well, their best player has been shut down incredibly early on. Billy Ray with the opener this time out as the pressures come on through. It's a 4 versus 5, now a 3 versus 5 actually, because Polar also getting involved in the action is going to make things just a little bit worse for this Rhonda Rising defense.
Still peeking down. Oh, I thought for a moment they might have spotted the foot. Dropping down, doesn't realize in the back logistics, but where's the swing? He got so late to it, completely sells their teammate, gets caught on the re-swing by Godless as well. Now just plunging in, last alive in the bathroom, smoked on out. Jaeger has to move away eventually, can't see a single thing while the diffuser's been dropped in the safety of Jim. And then Red Kites, they push in, they're so aggressive, they don't really give you a chance. I mean, a little bit of a slip up. You know, if we're being completely real, probably not ideal to let the Zofia drop onto that mirror window. I think that's something that you want to try and hold off for, play around. But, again, Red Kites throwing so many problems at Rhonda Rising, they don't really know what direction they're supposed to look. So far, they've won both the attacking rounds they've had to play. They've put themselves now up to match point as well. They're ready to claim the first big win of the season, put themselves at the top of their group.
Yeah, absolutely, and the round difference as well. If you can get it 7-2, that's plus 5 going into the books. That's certainly going to put them into a good position. Big money, like you say there, Ben. Yeah, in that previous round, you really get to see the difference between these two teams, right? Red Kites, they look so drilled, and they're playing so well together as a team. Rhonda Rising, it just doesn't seem like they are at that same level, and it's understandable, you know, a new team, newly formed. You're not quite going to have the experience of playing with each other. That will come with time. And having Red Kites as your first game is certainly rough, but, you know, it's all up from here for Rhonda Rising, and they're playing on the defense here of Clubhouse as well. And on the basement, often considered maybe one of the strongest sites in the entire game, perhaps, to defend, but they've left the kitchen hatch open.
That screams a little bit panic mode-y. Oh, Billy Ray forgetting his keybinds. Which button is it again to throw the boogie? You don't want to stun the floor. Immediately popping up and just double checking this top floor. I think this is, you know, much more relevant than it used to be. I still think just sweeping fully is just good practice. I don't know if we're properly checking this as Legion pops up over the top. A little bit of damage done, but ultimately Vex, confident in their aim, gets the headshot at the end of it as well. So you take down the Legion, and Keats has been probably the biggest player for Rhonda Rising so far, right? A real stand-up for them in terms of just showing off what they can do with a gun in their hands. And so, probably the best pick to find this early into the round.
Yeah, absolutely is. The only player positive on the Rhonda Rising team, but now this kitchen hatch can just get opened up here by Red Kites. There's nothing to contest them on this. There's nothing to challenge them on this. And now they have a 5v4 on the bomb site. I don't know if they are going to exactly know that all of the remaining defenders are down there, but they should have some idea. And at this point, I mean, it just keeps getting worse, really, if you think about it for Rhonda Rising.
Little ding into the leg of the Habana. Still plenty of opportunity for Rhonda Rising to win this, especially as that time starts to tick away. Habana now looking to try and open up onto the Moto hatch. Going to roll out an EMP. Is it going to be a trick coming through? No second one in the pocket. An interesting creative castle barricade, but the second EMP came through, make sure the hatch gets open up. They're going to fall back to site, but meanwhile, Vex getting aggressive, still around the back of the site, catching them off inside of blue, and creating another opportunity to start walking down as they're just unaware of the fact that Billy Ray's coming in from Oil Pit as well.
Yeah, this is disastrous. Catastrophe waiting for Rhonda Rising in this round. It's a 2v5 now. Eagle and CJ, now just CJ in fact, in a 1 versus 5. And Red Kites take it flawlessly, finding themselves the 3 points, finding themselves the +5 round difference, not losing a single attack here on Clubhouse. Thoroughly dominant. And it's what you would expect from the last season's champions, Ben.
Yeah, a great start for them, coming in, showing that full pace once more, and a really, really big win for them. I think there's some good takeaways here for Rhonda Rising. I think as a team, there's a lot more to come in terms of coordination. I think that's expected from the start of the season for a new 5-stack. I'm interested to see how that goes. You know, they've got 2 more group stage games to play. Can they end up in one of those playoffs positions? It's going to be hard to tell from the get-go, right? I mean, it's always a little bit awkward at the start of the season here because you go up against the Red Kites, a team that, you know, that there are favorites coming into the season, last season's champions, and how are you supposed to take them down, right? Like, it is a tall order. It'd be a massive statement to come in and get that opening win. Obviously, we highlighted Keats, fantastic standout player coming in from the game. Had some fantastic moments. The 1v3 clutch, really, really well played. Some good assertive, aggressive siege that you always like to see, right? You like to see teams and players that make decisions themselves rather than just sort of stumbling into a win. And I think having that aggressive spirit, you know, Rhonda Rising, they weren't afraid to put their bodies on the line when it mattered.
No, they weren't.
And I think that's a really valuable trait to have in terms of you're not going to be afraid to make those mistakes and then learn from them, right? That's how you improve as a team. And I think they've shown that they are going to be able to improve quite a bit.
And especially when they start to gel a bit more as well. They already have the aggression. They don't need to sort of learn that secondarily. Like you see with some teams sometimes their attacks were a bit slow. That wasn't due to lack of trying. That seemed more of a game plan issue than a being too passive issue. Right? So when they do start to get those game plans in, when they do start to get a bit more of that team synergy, I mean, I reckon they are going to be maybe a bit of a sleeper pick. Maybe not in this season, but in future seasons to come. Obviously, it's a very compact schedule. And maybe not quite enough time to fully work out those issues, but there's promising signs.
Yeah, it is going to be good. But I think Red Kites, fantastic for them coming in. They look just as composed as they were at the end of last season, and I think they're going to be a real terror for the rest of the league to try and take down.
Yeah.
That is game number 1. We have one more best of 1 coming on later up. So we're going to jump to a very short break, but we will be right back when we get all of the results in. We'll let you know how that's going, but we're going to jump to a break, so make sure you grab yourself a snack, and we'll come right back to the action. Hello, welcome back. We apologise for the extended break, but we're almost ready for game number 2 of the evening. It's going to be the Rejects taking on the Pirates. And I don't know which. I'd probably rather be a pirate, right? Being a
Yeah,
self-declared
I'd say
reject
so.
isn't ideal, but apparently there's law. It's pit ponies from last season. They've broken away from the Pit Ponies branding and they've established their own team away. And the Pit Ponies have another team, so maybe we'll get the grudge match between the two later on in the season. But for now, it is the Pirates who they're taking on, and that'll be interesting to see, right? Pirates legacied, right? In the first 3 seasons of R6, they were always fighting at the top. They had a drop off last season, a rebuild. Let's see how they've come back this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and we will have to wait to see that grudge match between the Rejects and the Pit Ponies, obviously being in different groups, because now we head over to Group B here, Ben. The Rejects already sitting themselves on to 6 points with a 7-5 win over the Wolfhounds. Obviously, with that bye, every team sort of starts out with 3 points, and the Pirates, they haven't played yet, so this is going to be their first game of the season. So maybe, Rejects, they've already won, they already have that sort of experience under their belt. They might just be a little bit more warmed up, but then you do also have to consider that maybe there's a bit of a fatigue factor as well.
I mean, it's 2 best-of-1s, right? It's like 4 ranked games? We're all used to playing 4 ranked games in the evening.
I'm trying to build a storyline here, Ben. Come on.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, my apologies. Yeah, they're going to be so fatigued.
They're going to be so fatigued.
The poor Rejects. Having to play 2 video games in a day.
Honestly, it's a fate worse than death.
On a more serious note, obviously, right, their first game did go 7-5. It was a pretty lengthy game on Consulate, so
yeah,
there is certainly going to be that mental fatigue coming in.
Yeah,
you're taking these games very
Pirates
seriously.
are coming in fresh as well, like fully fresh. They haven't played, so
yeah, it is obviously there is a chance that helps out. On the flip side, right, it's always hard to talk about like the mentality of teams coming into games, right? Because yeah, on one hand, the Pirates, they're coming in. They haven't played a game tonight. They've been sitting back, having a bit of fun. Now they get to come in with that fresh feeling. On the flip side, the Rejects are warmed up, right?
Yeah.
They've already played a game. They've already won it. They already know what they're doing. They get the comms flowing. They get the vibes up. Everything comes into the second game, right? So it really depends on how teams go, right? How teams feel. You see this a lot in like playoff brackets where it's more like a gauntlet style, right? You'll see teams start right at the bottom and they'll pick up momentum as they go, and it's a similar sort of vibe. Obviously, I'm not trying to say that it's better to start bottom in a gauntlet. Everyone knows the higher up you get to start in a gauntlet run, the better it's going to be, right? You just get 3 wins. But there's always, there's always something to the runs that build up, and you start to put up hype, you get the vibes, and more importantly, just like the storyline, right? Like that aura that builds up behind a team, and it can really help you out. Obviously, playing 1 best-of-1 isn't exactly the sort of groundbreaking run that we're...
no, not quite.
We're sort of equating it to. It can certainly be a difference maker for them, and especially if you're not rerunning the same map, right? If they get to force the veto back onto Consulate, that could be pretty spicy.
Yeah, absolutely, and we do have the veto for you, so we'll run it through now. Unfortunately, we don't have a graphic on screen, but I can yap. That's kind of our job. So let's see. The Pirates are the ones with the first ban, and then it goes to Rejects. So just to speed it up, I'll just sort of say the map banned away. Just remember it alternates Pirates, Rejects. Starting off with Pirates banning away Cafe, and then the Rejects taking away Clubhouse. Then we see Skyscraper and Oregon banned away. The Pirates taking away Consulate, so no repeat map there for the Rejects. Then they themselves ban away Nighthaven Labs. Bank goes, Border goes, we're left with Chalet, and the Pirates have elected to start on the defense. Now that's a little bit interesting to me, Golu, because this map can often favor the attack, and that's certainly been the case as of recent weeks.
I mean, sure, like technically it can favor the attack, but I think you just take defense whenever you can get it, right? It's just being able to get into a series, start slow, set yourself up, put the pressure on your opponent to be the team that has to from the get-go make things happen. I think it's just a really nice position to be back in. Like, a lot of the discussion about, like, oh, Chalet is, sometimes 52% attacker favored. It's like, that's a 50-50. And if anything, like, defense is just easier to play out, especially early on. I think you should take it every time. I actually don't think there's a map that you choose attack first, unless you have a very specific game plan.
I mean,
I think you
maybe border, but that's even still like a bit
Yeah,
questionable.
like, I
Just
don't know,
don't play
get the start
border.
defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
You just don't have to do anything. I mean, obviously you have to do something, but just a little bit
You have
cleaner.
to play the video
Fans,
game.
the video game. Fans coming in, look, again, pretty standard for fans. Maybe a
Yeah.
controversial one. I think that's the only thing that I'm looking at. Is a little bit of a funky ban. You do obviously have a lot of verticality, especially looking down in towards the basement. If you're playing inside of kitchen dining, they can obviously start opening up a lot of the CEO and master bedroom floors. So there are lots of ways to try and interact with the bomb sites, playing for verticality. It's fair enough. I mean, there's other options if you want to go for that. You'll still have things like, obviously, the classic fuse trick when attacking onto the basement. Otherwise, it's not viable. It's still going to be very good.
Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. And now we head into the map. The French Alps await us here, Ben. We find ourselves in Chalet yet again. In the first round, we're getting a Vigil to come on through, this time courtesy of Pigo. And they're bringing along the Boss G, not the K1A. Now this is what has been a bit more of the perhaps meta pick recently. Very, very strong weapon.
5 seconds to go.
Interesting setup coming out at the start of the game from the Pirates. An aggressive mirror window, which, I think if it gets read into by the rejects, they could try and set up on big window and catch you off guard. Pre-fire would certainly be quite potent, but Homer downstairs obviously has the Jinxie charm, so he's going to be a potent gamer to contend with. Trying to be cheeky with the Cade Claws. I like to see it. Just catches. It's going to be a bit of a tight one, but hide it away in there. It's pretty nifty trick. We like to see the cheeky tech.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that'll still get caught by like an impact TMP, but I mean, you're gonna have to place it very well. If they don't get it into the exact corner of the wall, and that might actually get away, and they don't have a Thatcher with them, so you're gonna have to be relying on those impact TMPs, or perhaps Honkers playing on the Twitch if you're the rejects. But unfortunately, the mute jammer is gonna be able to deny that, at least for now. So right now the wall will stay closed, botting the first one to fall as Kanye East finding the opener.
Still running around this bottom floor, and rejects quite slow to walk into the building, throwing a stun, but I don't know if they're aware that the Vigil tucked in on the right hand side as well. No good push coming in through library, so it's very much focused on the door downstairs into fireplace, as well as putting pressure on mezzanine balcony. We're halfway through the round, not a lot to show for it for the side of the rejects.
No, there really isn't. But we've seen rounds won in the past with even less time on the clock, but they're certainly not setting themselves up for success right now, and this is where the aggressive mirror windows can really come in useful for the Pirates. As this time gets low, as the chaos starts to build in the round, they have those sorts of utilities that they're going to be able to fall back on, and they're going to be able to be quite safe here in the site. Right now, the breach still hasn't been opened up. Rejects, they just don't seem able to get themselves into the position that they need. Flectum does fall to the hands of Flary, but there's two quick picks in response here from the Pirates. It's now a 4 versus 2. It's going from bad to worse. The pre-play C4 nearly catching onto Remix, down to 43 health themselves. But again, no breach, and crucially, there's starting to be no time either, and they're in a 2-player deficit. Everything is going against the rejects right now. Spicky's down to about 48 HP, and there's a bit more damage in there themselves. It's the Boss G to close it. the C4 comes through as well. A very solid first round there from the Pirates.
I told you he's a jinxie gamer. He knows what's up, and great flank at the end. I think ultimately just a bit of a stumble from the rejects, right? We're not really seeing them put that pressure in. They didn't make that move into the building, and I think this is why you want to start on that defense if you're Pirates, right? Sometimes you just get to sit in sight and wait to find out what happens, and sometimes the answer to that is nothing. Nothing happens. I mean, it's sort of this weird issue, right, where it felt very much the rejects were split between, like, we want to play for Mez, but we're not going for Library to try and full sweep through. We're sort of just waiting on an opening to occur, like, maybe someone just swings Mez and gives us a pick or this sort of thing, and the rejects, well, it didn't work out for them, right? Pirates a little bit more composed, playing it patient, happy to wait out the early minute and a half of that round before we really saw anything happen, before we saw the rejects start walking into the building, start looking for these gunfights. And that slow start is obviously going to hinder you when you start to lose members and you're left with very little time to try and figure anything else out. Didn't clear out the roam. It let the Valkyrie, the Vigil, have a lot of freedom of movement on that main floor. That is a Valkyrie skin.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That is in fact a Valkyrie skin.
We'll wait and find out what happens from that.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, right, it's painting a big target on your back. Technically,
it is a very bright skin.
You're technically not allowed to give your opponent any advantages, but you know the Pirates feeling kind of cute today. I don't know. It's an interesting choice. I wouldn't declare my presence like that.
No, I certainly wouldn't either. I will say because the Valkyrie cameras inside of a fireplace that we saw. Thanks to our wonderful observer Nanos, by the way, making sure that we know where all of those things are located. The flashbang goes in. That means that the nade will make its way through. He's going to be able to survive just about. Already on 30 HP, but while the second catch comes in, now the exothermic can open up a much better start to the round here for the rejects. They have a pick. They have a breach open. Incredible considering the previous round. And they also have these Otter shields to play behind, establishing a lot of control and a lot of pressure.
My concern is you use both exothermics on getting that open, and you have no other form of hard breach. So trying to put a split push through, trying to get open, for example, the side of wine or the back wall, to try and get that flexibility, going to be a lot harder to do. Going for the fuse trick to start opening up some of this verticality. That's nice to see. Gives them the option to start shooting down. It's a very rapid way to open a lot of surface area. And now dropping another cluster. One of these might even go through the railing to try and get some damage. Here, taking a hefty hit.
Things looking a little bit dangerous. Some shots fired through as well from Pigo, making their presence known, but still getting the kill. Botting going down. Speaky's downed as well, but there's a pick from Remix. It's a 4 versus 3 now as the player gets picked back up. So advantage still in the hands of rejects, but unfortunately the time is starting to get away from them yet again. They don't have control of the diffuser yet either, although I imagine that shouldn't be too difficult to get back the control of. And they know about Trooper Lane's position here inside of blue. He's able to escape away from that flare. He does have the swing, has the catch. Flectum though, a C4. That's massive. That's your fuse going down. And that's still applying the pressure here to the attack. Flectum inside of blue, tries to swing, punished for the hubris though. Now to 1 versus 3. Loach in the clutch position, does get the first. Honker's going down, but Flurry should be able to have the catch. Pre-fires round and gets the round there for the rejects. Tying things up yet again, it's 1 round apiece.
Felt completely different, almost like 2 different teams entered and possessed their bodies, because I felt there was basically no overlap in the play from either side. I mean, what are we looking for here, right? It's like the first round, they don't make a move, they don't enter the building, the Pirates sit back and do nothing, and eventually they just kind of win by default because the rejects don't have any opening, there's no way for them to start walking through, they just walk into crossfires, they get caught off by roamers who have been undetected, undroned. Round 2, they're given that freedom to start moving into the building. Obviously, the defense focusing on the basement. It's a basement hold. They're all anchored down. They can get into the top floor. They can start applying some utility. they catch Mute off a nice little pinch play. They didn't catch, they weren't aware he was there. They nearly lost 2 players to him, but they caught him off holding the retreat. So a good recovery to that situation. And then from there, they just started playing well. I can't describe it other than that, right? It's just we had drones coming through ahead of our players. We're making sure that we're giving them information. We're checking our tight corners coming down blue, really, really clean. We're watching in towards main, and we're just getting openings, and we're taking them. The rejects showing a lot more confidence in round 2, and ultimately that pushed them over the edge. Now we are going to have a little bit of a rehost, figure out all the skins. So we'll just get that all tidied up. So you get us for the meantime, because you don't want to watch just the menu screen. Where's the fun in that?
I mean, I've got a question. How difficult is it to remove a skin before a game? I don't know. Seems like something that would be on your pre-match checklist.
Sure.
But, these things happen, but that's why we're just
Counterpoint.
Oh, music
skins
term.
Are cool.
This is true.
Counterpoint a music term? What's a counterpoint?
It's a type of harmony. I haven't actually studied counterpoint, so I can't quite tell you too much on it, but it is a music term. It's a type of counterpoint harmony.
Making references you can't even explain.
Yeah, well,
that's classic arts student right there.
Yeah, true. Well, I'm kind of a combination of both, maths and music degree and all that. So there you go. I mean, what else can you really talk about in a rehost apart from counterpoint harmony? Well, I'm sure there's plenty of more interesting things.
I always really liked my music lessons. I did like music GCSE, right? And my music teacher was pretty sound. Big up Mr. Lewis. We just go to practice rooms the entire time. Me and a mate would just chill.
Yeah.
Kind of chat around. Not do too much. It's great. Great vibe. But then sometimes you do like a theory lesson. You'd be sat there and just be like listening to the Beatles for an hour. It's pretty cool. Not going to complain. Yeah. I always enjoyed it. It was fun.
I studied Killer Queen in GCSE. That was pretty fun.
I have no clue who that is.
No, the song Killer Queen by Queen.
Don't know that song.
That's unbelievable. That is actually insane.
Which one's Killer Queen?
Well, it's the one that has. I'm not going to try and sing.
Why
not? I wouldn't.
I don't know what we're referencing.
I wouldn't try and sing on broadcast at the best of times. While I'm ill is also probably not.
Sounds
fantastic.
like a lot of excuses.
Yeah, it is excuses.
Crazy.
And what?
Lack of passion. Lack of passion.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I don't know. I just like I'm not like that tuned in on the music world, I just kind of like find stuff randomly, normally quite randomly, and just like sounds nice. Why not? Not tuned in. Nanos like that one.
In terms of Queen knowledge, though, surely you know Bohemian Rhapsody. We're not.
Oh yeah.
Completely. Okay.
Yeah, I know that one like by heart.
Yeah.
But like,
we're not
it's like a need the music by heart. Do you know what I mean? But that's how it is for a lot of songs. Like, I couldn't tell you like the lyrics, but then if you like start playing it, I'll like sing along perfectly.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's like musical memory. It's a funny thing.
It really
I think
is.
it's like it's kind of like reminding me of like like they say like you should have like Tetris downloaded on your phone in case you're in a car crash. I think that same thing. It's like having these sort of like.
I've never heard of that one before.
I've never heard that. So apparently, Tetris uses a part of your brain that is really good in shock. Like, is important to promote in like shock therapy. In terms of therapy after a big shocking event.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just quite cool seeing that like apparently it like the parts of your brain that are used to like figure out how to move the puzzle pieces are like really good as a response to that. And so if you like do that, then it can really help with your like recovery from a crash.
Wow,
in terms of just like your mental well-being.
Yeah, I do enjoy a bit of Tetris, to be fair.
Never really played much Tetris, I can't lie. I don't actually have it on my phone. I can't drive, so I just figured like I won't be in a crash.
I don't have it on my phone, but I play it on the computer often enough. Yeah, I mean,
there's
I guess
like all sorts of
wild
Tetris
to be in a car crash.
No, just don't. I can't drive, and I'm just like gonna assume that I got ghosted by my driving instructor, and then COVID hit.
I don't blame your instructor. To be fair, I would ghost you as well.
I was too good at driving. That's what he said to me.
Yeah, he was
said to
scared
me-
by your power.
He said to me, Ben, you're just too good. I feel invalidated because I can't teach you anything. I said, that's fair enough, man. I get that a lot.
Yeah, you're just so skilled in everything.
And so it's just like, it kind of felt that, like, you know, I mean, it was a bit annoying. I just, for some reason, I hit him up to be like, yo, can I get another driving lesson? And he just never responded to me. And then COVID hit, and I was like, well, that's not ideal. And then I was off at uni, and was just like, didn't really
Not
have
going to be
time.
driving much at university, really.
Nah, I cycled. Swansea
Yeah.
was pretty small place to get around.
Yeah,
Not very big.
I mean,
That was
I'm
my
having
Welsh
that
introduction.
The same thing with in Cardiff. To be fair, I'm like, the furthest walk I have is like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's great.
It's fantastic.
Although, like, yours is better because, unlike Cardiff, Swansea's a line. It's just a line. So, like,
Right.
university campus over here, and if you live in the city centre, it's like a 40-minute bus or like a 30-minute cycle, or like something like a 30-minute cycle. So it's not too bad, but it's just like, I wasn't even 30 minutes, like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's just like inconvenient, you know?
Yeah,
Whereas, like, you know, if you live in a
that's why Cardiff is better. You see,
if you live in like a normal shaped city, then you just go like in a 10-minute little circle and you can find everything. I think you also benefit from the fact that, like, you know, Cardiff's had some money pumped into it in recent years. Cardiff's looking very nice these days. I went to Cardiff recently.
you should come on down.
I went down to this was 2 weekends ago. Went down for a pre-release of the new Rosetta set, Flesh and Blood. Brilliant card game. I'm gonna plug a card game on the Welsh Esports stream. I do that a lot. I just basically find ways to sneak in plugs for it. But went down to Cardiff and had a little drive around. It's quite nice. Tried what's the place called? Flaming Dragon Indian Chinese takeaway.
Oh,
Pretty nice.
was it pretty good?
Wasn't bad.
Okay,
It was pretty
I'll have
decent,
to
pretty decent.
keep my eye on that. I haven't actually had any takeaway yet. I'm I don't know, not quite at that stage of the uni experience, but
That's fair.
I'm
I
sure-
think my second year I tried
I'm
to
sure it'll
document.
come.
I tried to like document which takeaways were worth getting and which weren't. Found some pretty good
Yeah.
ones. Any Swansea's? You know what you're missing? You're missing Cold Zero. Closed down. Cold Zero? 01? What was it?
I don't know.
Was it 01? It was like a kebab
as
place,
Scooby.
but they did like calzones.
Oh,
They did a really good calzone. It was called the Zero Special. It's very good. It was like 2 meals worth of calzone for like 12 quid. It's a bit of a spenny one, but it was a nice treat sometimes.
yeah.
That was
I
always
mean,
nice, yeah.
for that much calzone though, like 12 quid seems pretty good.
It's pretty good. Sometimes if I was I'd be able to have it for dinner, put it in the fridge, have it for lunch the next day as well. It's pretty
Oh,
cool.
Can't
Pretty
beat
cool.
it.
No, you really can't.
Yeah.
We're
See, I've just been shopping at Lidl the whole time. So,
Yeah,
you know,
Lidl's great.
Lidl
great.
is great. Let's see,
My
what-
Lidl was
what
really
other
far to get
brands-
to.
What other brands? Oh, it's like a 5-minute walk for me. It's so close. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
That's great. So happy for you. I was
know.
I
I'm
normally
happy
use
for
Tesco.
me as well.
I had like a
There you
Tesco
go.
pretty nearby.
How many other brands can we name? Let's see.
I found a Pepsi.
To be fair, I'm more of a Coke guy. There we go. That's the balance. Is that's the
What you don't
BBC
realize
wants.
is that every time we say a brand name, it just gets like beeped out. It just
Oh,
becomes
that's a
like a
shame.
sort of like fuzz.
Yeah.
No one can actually tell what we're saying.
The producers are working overtime right now to try and
Yeah, the
censor all of the brands.
The trigger fingers on the filter button.
Yeah.
Alright. Yeah, cool. So we thought we'd be able to keep you all entertained, but we've sort of
We
run out
tried.
of things. So we are going to jump to a break while we figure out the rest of this rehost. I think unequipping skins has taken a little bit longer. To be fair, there are like 70 operators in the game now, 72.
Yeah,
it's
this
like-
is true. There's a lot.
Makes sense. It's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully be back very, very shortly. So, maybe grab another snack if you manage to
Fingers
finish your
crossed.
last one. We'll be back hopefully in not too long. We'll catch you in a
Yeah.
minute. We're back, Cameron. We
are.
summoned the players by going to a break, as
Of
is
course.
rehost tradition. And now we get to come back for round number 3. It's going to be a reattempt down into the basement. I think the biggest thing to note for them would just be to keep a little bit of a better eye on some of the staircases, right? We saw, obviously, they had the thermite, they opened up the main breach last time. We still have the opportunity to repick. We've seen the Thatcher and the Osa make another reappearance, so maybe expecting the Pirates to pick a different bomb site for round number 3, but it's going to be straight back to the same position. I want to see them open up this breach, but I would like to see a little bit more work come out towards the backside as well, play for a bit of wine. However, last time, they did a very good job at making sure that they had that focus. Rather than the backside, they had garage breach, they had main stairs, and then blue presence, and that was how they sort of created that split attention for the Pirates and sort of pulled them apart a little bit. That paired with, obviously, a lot of verticality coming from the cluster trick.
5 seconds left.
Indeed.
Attackers' objective is to locate a
Well,
bomb and defuse it.
opportunity for a reattempt. To be honest, it's really having to search through the memory palace to remember round 2. We were in a rehost for that long.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
But thankfully, we're back in the game now. That's all that matters. Kanye East not going to worry about the trick this time. Instead, that falls to Trooper Lane. Gonna try to make things maybe just a bit more difficult for that trick to come on in, especially with the nades and things like that. There's a possibility that the Electroclaw will even just escape that, and Trooper Lane can throw from much further away. And indeed, there becomes the EMP. In goes another grenade. Oh, Trooper Lane needs to be careful there. Somehow avoids taking any damage, but has to dip away. That breach is going to get opened up in the first minute. Still a very, very swift attack here. Do they know about Pigo on the top floor? I think Speaky was aware, but isn't able to get the kill. The opening pick for the Pirates as they look to come back from this rehost in style.
Drone parked at the bottom of the stairs from West Main as well, but no one on it actively. So still the opportunity for Kanye East to play quite aggressively. I think that's just another kind of blunder here from the Rejects right there. They committed in thinking it was going to be a rerun of last time where they had that freedom to do so, and so it was good play from Pigo to sort of take advantage of that false sense of security. Spray's coming through into kitchen now, so it does have to be a little bit cautious. Fortunately, none of those shots hit, but still, no drones coming deep enough to actually hunt out this vigil, so pretty free to continue playing upstairs or even challenge for a retake up above if they want to.
Yeah, the other option as well is falling back into the car garage and providing security for Kanye East, who's on those West Main stairs, actually has pushed his way up. That's rather ill-advised, however, because Botting has been able to get the catch. Brings it to a 4 versus 4, but Pigo's still up here. There's not much time. They don't know about his position here. That could be everything, but the SMG-12 just a little bit too unruly for Pigo to try and tame. This is still doing a good job at wasting that time. Hatch is open for the retreat as well, just sending in some pre-fires and can now escape. And there's only 20 seconds left for the rejects to try and get an execute. Botting's fallen to the hands of Flectum as well. And there's a second inside of blue, finding the player. It just keeps going from bad to worse here from the rejects as we head into red time. There's only one player remaining, and the Pirates, well, they're setting themselves up for another brilliant round win.
Yeah, Thatcher still worried about Vigil upstairs and really they dropped down back into the basement to hide away. And again, despite what looked like originally a decent pacing and they got the breach open, they started pushing upstairs. They didn't ever get that step forward. They got messed around on the roam. They wasted so much time. And that clock really coming to bite them. And it's why it's really important to always be cognizant of how much time is left in the round. Make sure you give yourself enough space to actually get down and start hitting the bomb site. I think that partly was like just a very slow response to the roam, right? You lost your fuse, 0 retaliation coming through. And then they eventually get the bandit who walked up West Main, but still no effort to try and hunt down the vigil. It was very much like, oh, he's happened to walk up to us, we get the kill, awesome, we'll take it, I guess. So, you know, a little bit of a misplay, I think, there from the rejects. But ultimately, I think pretty nice from the Pirates in terms of how they wasted time on the roam.
Yeah. Nal's doing a good job at finding these Valkyrie cameras as well. That one's very sneaky up in the rafters.
He's an IRL IQ.
He really is. If only IQ was from Slovenia, then it would be a bit more accurate. Are there any Slovenian operators actually? I don't think there are.
Nope.
Maybe that should be the next thing that they add in the game. Next operator is from
Can't believe
Slovenia.
you just doxed Nanos.
Yeah, it's not like it's public information. Oh, there we go.
Crazy.
No.
Crazy.
Yeah. Slovenia's a pretty big place. It's not like there's just one house. As much as you might think that sometimes.
It's actually just Nanos' house. It's just all of Slovenia.
Yeah, that's a pretty big house to be fair.
It's a pretty big house. They do call it Nanos' kingdom for a reason.
They do.
Shooting ghosts at the start of the round, just to try and make sure there's no one hanging around unwanted inside a library. Pretty cursed place, you know. Books falling off the shelves and all that jazz. But again, we saw last time rejects didn't go to the library itself. They sort of just waited to see if they could walk in. This time, no one in a down position to immediately contest the entry, but found themselves quickly in between two defenders, a little bit damage into the shoulder as the logic bombs come through. But it's a bait and switch. Pigo shoots the buck in the back while distracted by Kanye. That's an unfortunate way to start the round. And again, we're seeing rejects just fall into this trap of walking into the building with very little work done ahead of time to make sure it's safe. Botting does get one back, but it's still a little bit late into the round.
Indeed it is, and they've spotted the Vigil out as well with the IQ. That's a fairly easy kill to get. Still did about half damage to the IQ. Perhaps a headshot could have been found there, but instead it's now player advantage for the side of the rejects, making things, well, they're looking pretty good for them if they're able to open up the breach, which obviously was the sticking point the last time we saw this site back in round number 1. And, well, this could work out very, very well. But right now that breach is remaining closed. With the addition of the IQ, however, they're going to be able to spot these things out and be able to open up this wall. Just like that.
Very cleanly done, and thrown all summers across, have reactivated because they've been thrown in a little bit late. That was on the side that was EMP'd first, but with Flurry underneath, shooting up through the hatch, they've been able to get the kills, and then start to flood their way into Piano as well. Suddenly left the Mirror alone.
Yeah, and a 1 versus 4 as well. Spots the player inside of Piano, but, well, there's just too many angles to watch there. Speaking the one to find the final fight, but realistically, there are about 3 players shooting in Loach's direction. It means that we tie up yet again, 2-2. This game looks like it might be a fairly close one, at least just based on these first 4 rounds. There hasn't necessarily been much to really separate them, because while these rounds haven't necessarily been close themselves, it has been switching which team has the favor, and it feels like
As many bombs as they can.
it comes down to just the game plans in each of these individual rounds here, Ben.
It is a dilemma. Again, you just start to get quite aggressive, right? You see what happens when the rejects start to move in. I really liked the play with the IQ, obviously catching out the Kaid clause. Lets them open up the breach. Really, really well done, especially because we talked about in the first round, right? The way that the claws are being placed requires very precise use of those EMPs. So immediately coming in, forcing that to be the case, and matching that expectation. I now just want to see them figure out how they get into the building at the start of these rounds, right? Because this could be going a whole lot smoother for them if they put a little bit more work in as a unit, even in small groups, right? 2, 3 people, just to try and come on in at the start. That would be quite nice. We'll have to see, though.
Yeah, indeed, we will. Pigo with Bosgy yet again. They've been enjoying the vigil. Speaky's given us a little dance as well on the mound there. Just I guess a bit, just very excited to be here. The breach getting opened up again here over on the top floor. That's going to allow some very quick access, but Speaky has been taken down to 17 HP downstairs on the fireplace door. That's certainly not what you want, because that's your Ying player. Still has 4 Candelas in pocket, and you want that utility for the execute.
An early Candela being thrown out now is, again, you want to make sure you use that utility before you die. Try and clear that space out. Oh dear. Another skin call? Well, we'll see what happens. It's unfortunate. Now wait to see what you do to clear out Kanye here. As a drone is coming through, but it's being done quite slowly. A smoke to cover up the main door. Let them walk into fireplace, but still no pick found. The ping coming through. They've
so
just
close.
crossed over it. And Specky gets one onto Kanye now. They clear out that Valkyrie.
Indeed they do. The low HP player still finding impact with the gun, and that's exactly what matters. As long as you're up, you can still click on heads. Pico's in a difficult position as well downstairs. With 1 minute left, it's now 4 versus 3. Made a 3 versus 3 there by Flectum, the most recent player to find a kill. And on inside a piano, nearly gets a second catch as well. Now Honkers also dangerously low on HP, just 18 points of health to their name. That's going to make it very difficult to try and push in the later stages of this round. Flectum as well, just falling back, knows that, well, the Pirates are in the advantage right now with this little time. Speaky is the one with the diffuser now, starting to get that planted, spots out the C4. Flary, the other side of the map, now trying to distract away from this. Honkers has been down though, but Flectum can't quite land the pick on those stairs. But now it's a 1 versus 3 for Flary. Honkers down, unretrievable, and now these players can just get onto the diffuser, and with that kill coming through as well, Pirates are going to be able to cleanly take the round.
Surprised it took them that long to get on the diffuser, especially when they should have known that IQ was the last one alive. But
yeah,
you know what? Just being a little bit cautious. Maybe the rotation comes through. Sure, there's always things got to be worried about. They get the round win. That's what's most important, and I think we can leave it at that a little bit, right? They did the important bit. They dealt with the pressure coming in, especially from the Candelas. I think the smoke almost hurting the plant there, right? Because they cut off the long angle that Ash wants to hold, forces her to come in close, gets caught out by the Nitrocell, gets caught off by the TCSG coming in on that off angle that you wouldn't have to challenge otherwise. So a little bit unfortunate with the placement of that, and the fact that it sort of forced that more aggressive nature that you don't really want to have to go for in that planting situation. But the Pirates responded to it very well. They used the fact that there was now this ability for them to get a bit aggressive, to try and disrupt this plant. They played their numbers out very comfortably. A much better hold from the Pirates on that top floor, not getting overwhelmed quite so easily this time around.
Yeah, another issue for the rejects there as well is the time. really, because that breach got opened up so quickly, and yes, it still came down to those final 30 seconds. And I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but it's been something that we've been seeing causing teams issues all day, and it really came back to bite Rejects in that round.
I'm just a little bit cautious walking up.
Yeah.
Remix, start focusing on the game, bud.
Yeah.
So, I respect the call out. We've had a few. We move on. Still waiting to see what the plan is to clear out both Kanye and Trooper as well now. But they sort of had a go at both, right? They tried the Bandit, didn't quite work. Tried the Kaid, couldn't get it to fully gel. Let's try both and see what happens. A much cleaner placement of the exothermic charge this time around. I really love to see that. And now we're trying to drop down the charges. Bandit's the wrong side of the wall. Gets blown open. Wall open is achieved. There's no O's this time to give them that bunker to play behind, though. So a little bit harder for the Rejects to start to put pressure into the site and then follow that up to walk on in. It's going to rely on clearing out this vigil. And Pico, so far this series, has done a fantastic job at evading anything that the Rejects have tried to throw at him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been a real phantom on the upstairs, aided by the ERC-7, that primary gadget of the Vigil to just hide themselves away from those drones. This is another breach opened up very quickly. We've seen it all 3 times, really. On this basement site, Rejects have been able to get this breach open. There's been a 50-50 success rate so far. There's fuse charges coming on in as well this time. There's trade infrastructure in place, but also crucially, the roam just isn't quite happening to the same extent that we see from the Pirates. As Pico's down on the west main stairs, not up on the top floor this time. So I don't know if Honkers is aware of this. Indeed, has absolutely no idea. That's certainly not ideal, but there's 2 picks in response here from the Rejects. They bring it to a 4 versus 3, and Flary's inside of blue. That's plenty of pressure. Trooper Lane spotted on the main stairs as well, and Botting is planting up here right by the mirror window.
Pressure off of main stairs, gave them that opening, but now Kaid needs to turn and look to the right. Spots the fuse, standing in the middle of sight, brings it back to a 2 versus 2 already. One tucked away is outside of breach, the other all the way on the back stairs by Trench. So quite a distance that they're covering, but it forced them to go for the peak to try and defuse. A mirror window looking down, they could pop it open if they want to. Spots the Valkyrie running right below your feet. Remix for the first, the second has worked their way into connector, taking fire from outside of Wine. Waiting to play for this time accordingly. Bang, the shots from Botting come on in through the breach and finish off the round. A really masterful post-plant play.
Yet again, we see the pattern continue. A Pirates round win, then a Rejects round win. And we find ourselves on a 3-3 half. It is perfectly tied between these 2 squads. And, well, again, it just seems like this game might go the distance. However, there's always 2 halves to a game of Siege, Ben. This one could see a massive difference. Either massive success from the Pirates on the attack, massive success from the Rejects on the defense. But right now we are sat even. And I just have that feeling in my gut.
I'm not quite sure what's going to be the big breaking point in this series, right? We've kind of seen both teams have these moments where they've stepped up to the plate, but for a large majority of it, there's one that's had a clear advantage in each round. Yeah. Pirates either be able to hold steady, the Rejects not finding that opening, or they'll flood in together and find this fantastic bit of inspired teamwork that they just can't seem to then replicate the following round, that it sort of falls away again. So it's quite hard to really figure out how I feel about that first half of the game. But now we come to the second. The Rejects could start out on the defensive end, and immediately it's up to that top floor, right? There's always a lot of sort of uncertainty as to what's comfortable. I think coming in sort of like, say, a sort of newer competitive environment is how I'd describe Esports Wales, right? It makes sense that we're seeing a little bit more of like the ranked adjacent sort of strategies coming through. That being said, a couple holes set up looking into library with the castle barricade on the doorway. an excellent funnel, which we're starting to see them incorporate. So some promising shows from the rejects here. I really like the setup that they've gone for. Now it's just, can they pull it off?
Yeah, that is the question. You know, you'd be looking at this and saying that this does look pretty good for them. They don't quite have the same wall denial capabilities that we saw coming through from the Pirates. No Bandit or Kaid or anything of that nature. But they make up for it in other ways, and we know that the time has been a massive factor. The Goyo being brought along by Honkers is also going to be a key factor in that. And some of the gunfights, Speaky finding that first pick, Loach going down, that's your ace taken off of the board, and well, it looks like that breach is incomplete. The Pirates, they're not going to be able to get themselves into the site here effectively.
Sometimes just a little hole is all you need, though. Now they need to clear out mezzanine so they can actually start to push up towards Ivy Corridor, get that pressure around Piano, and start playing to push deeper in. Pigo downstairs on the Ash, waiting for the opportunity to walk up main stairs. You've still got the hole being watched from below. It's a real good opportunity, but they have to move quickly and make sure they're capitalizing on the time that's left for them. Because so far, they're starting to slow down. The rejects peeling back towards the site. It's going to leave them with nothing to find once they finally have the confidence to walk on in.
And you have the denial as well from Honkers. Those Vulcan canisters, they waste 20 seconds, Ben, per each one of the canisters. They burn for insanely long amount of time. And there's a good pick coming through from Pigo, who has been a real shining star, but they haven't cleared the blue stairs. Remix is able to find that pick and is able to dodge away from the flash as well. Flectum also trying to watch Remix. That is a ridiculous shot to hit. And drops the dunked in the chat as well. The rejects certainly looking strong for this round, and Flectum, all they can do is just sit here and watch and wait. Speaky as well, playing the dock, able to heal up the teammate and take them down. Another kill going the way of Speaky as well, healing, dealing damage. Flectum at least taking one pick with them, but it's still a 1 versus 3. That's now a 1v2. Now the play is down, but Honkers has the pistol and has the closeout.
Well, again, we're seeing both of these teams, right? It was Rejects the first half, now that Pirates in the attack, they have the same issue. It's not having the confidence to walk on in. There's not drones coming ahead to make sure that mezzanine is safe, and then we're not seeing them take the initiative to walk up. If instead, we saw Pico walk up main stairs, Buck still opening the floor from below, but there was another there. Flectum just jump into library at the same time. Force some sort of decision point to be made by the defense in where they want to contest, try and trade them out, get those picks, start obtaining that map control. It's this slow rolling that we're seeing from both sides that have been the biggest hold up on the attacks, and it's why we're seeing these sort of scuffed endings to rounds. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use scuffed, but I think it's the fair way to put it, and it's not too harsh on the team, right? It's just coming down to a lot of these rounds being
polished.
Yeah, like they're in like weird little 2v4s or 3v3s, and there's not really established openings made by an attacking team. There's not these big holding positions established for the defense either. Everything's sort of in a weird middle ground state, and it just means whoever can land the shot at the end of the day is going to come out on top. And a lot of the time throughout this map, right, we've had 7 rounds. I'd say 5 of them have just come down to whoever's been more aggressive at the end. Whoever's just hit W first has generally come out on top.
Yeah, and that does tend to favour the defense a little bit, just because the attacks have been quite slow. They've been on the back foot a little bit, but the attack also do have the better weapons. That's why you see the scoreline as close as it is. But Rejects have broken the trend. They've won 2 rounds in a row now. The end of the first half, now the beginning of the second. As we look down again to the basement. This one is going to be, I assume, a bit more standard. You've got a Tubarao trying to deny out the wall. None of the Kaid sort of shenanigans that we had in the previous round. Flary is on the vigil yet again. Has been a very common operator to see in this match. The Hibana pellets come on out. Tubarao not quite being used right now, the heals come in as well. A Thinker being brought along by Kanye East, who's yet to find any impact in terms of the kills department, at least since the rehost, but is now going to be able to provide some healing for the team.
Longo still being watched carefully, obviously aware of how powerful it is to be able to rotate through connector. As shots come through onto the Habana, able to duck down behind the chests just in time to stay alive. But a really heads-up aggressive play from Honkers to try and get some work done. And this is what we're asking for, right? Someone get aggressive, challenge these angles. Now, what's going to happen for Pirates? Who's going to walk up and try and retake this gunfight? Habana's still looking for it, but so low on HP, is in kill threat of that DMR.
Yeah, DMRs do so much damage, and it is the rejects who find the opening pick, not Honkers with the DMR, but instead it is Remix. Playing the Oryx has been having a really good game so far. The roaming capacity from this reject side is immense. Speaky goes down, that's on the site. The breach has been opened up, but even still, it's a 4 versus 4, and Honkers is just continuing to tap away. Spots the feed, deflect him as well. That's a disgusting kill, and brings the advantage back for the rejects. Player prone though, outside, might be able to get the angle. Instead, it's Loach coming down the blue stairs. Now suddenly it's a 3 versus 3 yet again. Diffuser outside the breach. Loach taking some damage. That's another drone hole. Misses the flash as well. Yet more time being wasted. And Botting just sitting in boiler. Flurries above car garage as well. None of these defenders are actually on the site. Remix has been caught out though. But again, Pirates, they need to get in. They need to start finding these picks. And finally, the plant is going down, but Botting's been able to cross into the site. Now still alive, only 30 HP, same as Loach inside of blue. But now Pirates are in the advantage situation. Pigo's found another pick as well. It's all down to Botting, and he can do squat.
Can you get in? With all the openings that they have for themselves, the ability to play verticality above, very hard to play out these retakes, right? It's just difficult to challenge out the angles. It's always the advantage of big external breaches that you can sit out of, have comfortable positions. You got the stone builds, you got rocks to play for cover. Really, really nicely done. And again, Pirates finding a way to put that round together at the end. And I think it's just a little bit of over-aggression coming in from the rejects. I wanted them to be aggressive, yes. But when you have that advantage, force the attack to come into the site to you. Keep challenging on these long angles. Eventually, you're going to get punished for it.
Attackers need to locate and defuse.
It's unfortunate. I would have liked to see them be able to hold that together. And that's why they're going to rerun the bomb site, which I also really appreciate. I think this is one of those rounds where you had a good start, you can rerun it. No two-bram is interesting, but, you know, at the same time, they weren't really playing too heavily around for the Zotos. So, you know, Breach still got open in a pretty good time. I think this all sort of looks pretty standard otherwise. You still got Flary running around on that Vigil. I'd like to see him activate a little bit sooner. We didn't see too much from the Pirates in coming to clear him out in the roam. Find a way to get a little bit more active. Hunt down the buck on that middle floor if you can. Just a way to put a little bit of pressure on the attack, which alleviates it from your defenders on site, so they can focus more on dealing with Trench or holding down for blue.
Yeah, that's also kind of what the Oryx can help out with as well. This time, the Oryx privileges handed over from Remix over to Speaky, but even still, the idea there is the same. Botting, interestingly, has moved on to the Frost and is currently upstairs in the mezzanine. Very, very interesting indeed. But away from the Jaeger, so less about denying the utility and more about denying the presence from the attack. That mirror window should be dealt with as well. Honkers bring along the mutant instead of the Tuberal, means that those are going to be a lot easier. The walls are going to be a lot easier to open up for the Pirates. And to be fair, they didn't really struggle that much in the previous round either. So it's understandable to try to move away from that into some things that you can deny, like the drones, like the information, and like the players playing as well with the Frost mats.
Still on for good time here. I like that they've hidden a drone away inside of blue as well, making sure that they keep that flank opportunity open for themselves. And that's ultimately what I think won them last round, right? It was Honkers being so focused on Breach that when they wrapped around, when they came in from the side, they got a free kill and a lot of immediate pressure onto the site, even if we then did see the lock go and stun himself. pretty shortly afterwards. Frost spotted getting aggressive on the staircase, but no one right around the corner to punish this. Still everyone outside the building, and I think this is the one thing that Pirates have sort of underestimated, right? It is how they get inside yet again. Pico going up towards that top floor. Again, there's another roamer. It's Flary running around. You're going to have to hope he doesn't encounter him in an awkward side angle, which I have a really bad feeling about.
Yeah, creeping down these stairs. Might be making a bit of noise. The deployable shield is there as well. And crucially, the player not able to be caught out. But, well, one player is, and that's Pigo. Taken down by Flary upstairs. And the Vigil and the Oryx combining for that impact that you wanted to see, Ben. They were clearly listening in on us. And they absolutely took your feedback to heart. Botting, though, has fallen, and that is the player inside of blue. Loach yet again finding that flank. The EMP will take away from this player, but the smoke grenades are actually doing a bit of a disservice here. They've been able to Rejects have been able to completely flank in. Kanye East is just a bit too late on that wraparound through the snowmobile stairs. Now with this LMG, can start to pressure, covering fire onto the player planting, and Trooper Lane up close, taking out Flary. Doesn't have the diffuser though, and there's another kill. C4 onto Remix, but now he's the last defender left alive. Has the ping on the position as well. You have the ping, you know where he is. He can just sit inside of blue and wait it out. The Rejects are able to claim the round. Somehow.
Even in spite of getting shot in the shoulder right at the end, they play it out on time, they hold it tight, and the Pirates just so close to being able to pull that off, but it was not detecting the Oryx. It was being forced to push down blue, kind of blind at the end of it. And again, another situation in which a team leaving too little time for themselves at the end of the round as a direct result of a lack of movement at the start has really come to hurt them. Both these teams, they're running onto the same issue time and time again. And I don't know what needs to change for, well, now the Pirates, they're the ones that have to start putting attacking rounds on the board. They need 3 from the next 5 if they want to close out this game in regulation. I don't know what the inspiring difference is going to become.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if they want this in regulation, it's going to have to be 3 on the bounce, isn't it? Just one more round for the Rejects, and they secure themselves overtime. That is
5 seconds remaining.
pretty scary if you're playing for the Pirates. Obviously, they themselves, this game is their last game of the group stage. And yes, with that win, they have probably secured themselves. But you never know for sure. And this is a league where it could come down to round difference if the Rejects win this game in regulation, and then Wolfhound win against Rejects in regulation. The round difference could, in fact, be a massive part of it. You want all of the rounds that you can, and crucially, you just want to win these games. Because of the bye next week, this is their final opportunity to get points on the board to find themselves in the playoffs. As for the Rejects, they at least have a game next week if this one doesn't quite go to plan.
Yeah, they win, they get that guarantee. Otherwise, it's sort of, you hope you don't enter that 3-way tie situation. But
yeah,
botting, Dome's the head of Flectomoff. That's your EMPs. So you're now relying
nice
on the Rotero drone, which hasn't caught it, right? It's a difficult jump to make, so you can understand why not. Gonna put a bit of extra pressure on Buck to go below, or maybe the IQ to try and find it out. But if it's in a similar position to what it saw earlier, you can hide them pretty well on that top floor. That makes it kind of awkward to get from below. Still complete control of mezzanine as well, as the angle down towards Ivy Stairs is being watched ever so vigilantly by Remix, who really doesn't want to give space. But so far, again, no threat here. Castle happy to sit and wait to see what happens. The floor ripped from below, but shouldn't have to move too far. Get too panicked. Just play slow, play calm, Remix.
But you can see that panic is setting in a little bit. Whiffing on the Selma charge a little, but still staying alive. You can see, though, that floor being opened up has complicated matters, but he is able to escape, and with a Doc on side, is able to collect that healing back up to full, in fact a little bit overhealed. As that health ticks down, it's actually a kill coming through from the Pirates. Loach playing the ace, AK-12 taken away botting. That's your Kaid gone, so at least you remove the possibility of a trick, but again, it's the time. It's been a massive issue this entire game, and it's starting to bite the Pirates in the ass yet again. Only 20 seconds, but Pico is inside of the site. Flary caught completely unawares with his pants down. Remix is able to find one. That's a second as well onto Loach. The perfect swing to come on out, and Honkers gets the catch as well. Rejects have map point.
And I'm looking at this thinking that managed to get in behind the bomb site. IQ's done an absolute worldie to get in behind, start shooting in the back of the defense, but we're not seeing the rest of Pirates move swiftly enough. They're so focused on waiting for that breach. Forget the breach, guys. You have piano double doorway, you have office doorway. Just start getting in, get involved. And so much time is bought. The Remix is able to put the breach on pause. You say, you guys, go wait on mezzanine, sit out for a second. I'm just trying to figure something else out. They turn around, shoot down the IQ, and then he's ready by the time they go, oh, this breach is taking a long time. Let me go to office door. He's already waiting for you, and you're shot. You need to be a little bit swifter there, Pirates, and Rejects a great job to reassemble back on the bomb site, maintain control of their round, and push it over the line. The Rejects push themselves to match point. They're about to confirm their spot in the playoffs on the first playday. They don't have a game to play next week. They can sit back very patiently and wait to find out who they're going to meet in the semi-finals. Insane for them to be already so close to locking that in on the first day.
10 seconds to insert.
Yeah, absolutely. They are, well, sitting pretty right now. As for the Pirates, things are in a little bit more of a struggle, and well, if they lose this, then that match against Wolfhounds next week is the decider. Whichever team wins that will go to playoffs. But obviously, that's all ifs, buts, maybe speculation. We still don't know how the end of this game is going to go. The Rejects, they get another 2 rounds in a row. For the second time this game, it feels like they're able to get a bit more of a streak going here on the defense, and Pirates just aren't having that same success. Now they need these next 2 rounds. If they let either of them slip, then it's game over.
You're on the blitz. This has to be time to get aggressive. Gonna go for it. The stun comes through. The shots are going nowhere.
No
but
way.
Flary with a wallbang to take down the blitz. Scopos gun ready, but still loses to Trooper Lane. Can't quite hold on. Takes the Nomad down to 11 HP though. An amazing trade to start off the round. I thought for sure the Scopos was a goner, but no. Holds on just about.
That's insane. That is
It's the first
insane.
time we've seen a team start out on the attack very aggressively, right? Pico using that blitz and just getting completely domed through a wall is a really disappointing end to finally seeing some aggression past there.
Yeah, it's what we wanted to see, but unfortunately it just couldn't quite come in time. Still a lot of players up here on the top floor as well. Honker's inside of mezzanine, Flowery inside a kill box as well. Yeah, jab goes off. Information being gathered here by the attack. They're sitting, holding their angles, hoping that the Rejects walk into their lines of sight, but instead they find kills. Honkers taking down Flectum, the Lion inside of Office, and now botting as well. Things starting to fall apart here for the Pirates. They still have 50 seconds. Pre-fire's coming around. Trooper Lane still on 11 HP, now taken down entirely. The Pirates get plundered as the Rejects find themselves the win.
7-4 victory. They turned the corner the moment it came into that second half, looking so much more poised on their defenses, much better at taking advantage of the windows that they were given, right? You give them the chance, you don't push in aggressively enough, you let them come back into sight and retake their space, they're going to box you out for the second time, and there's no way, after losing those numbers, that you're going to be able to push them off.
Yeah, absolutely no chance. I just can't stop thinking about that kill onto the blitz. Like, it's mental. It's so sad as well. Like, if you're that blitz player, if I was playing that blitz, I'd be absolutely fuming that I've gone down there. But you know, it's those small margins, really. Just a little bit of a missed timing in terms, or a little bit of perfect timing, really, from the Skopos to find the melee. And if that goes slightly differently, we possibly see an entirely different round. It looked like the luck of the gods was in the side of the Rejects. Right now, a sort of a new-ish team, a new asterisk team, yeah. I feel like, in the league. And the Pirates, they might have the history, but unfortunately they just don't quite have the results thus far. But we do also have a bunch of other results here, Ben. That was the final game to be played, so we can bring up the standings, I believe. The Red Kites and the Pit Ponies lock themselves in for the playoffs here on this first day already. And so do the Rejects. So realistically, the Wolfhounds Pirates game, that is going to be the decider. Which one of those Group B teams goes to playoffs? We've seen a lot of 7-2s today, actually. Obviously, our game earlier was a 7-2. The other games at that 7 o'clock fixture were Pit Ponies 7-0 against Tribal, and then obviously Rejects 7-5 against Wolfhounds. Right now, obviously, we just had that 7-4, and then a 7-2 to the Red Kites against Tribal, and a 7-2 to the Pit Ponies against Rhonda Rising. So a lot of 9-round games. This one went a little bit longer than that, but we have 3 of the 4 teams already secured for playoffs, Ben.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It means next week, obviously, the Pit Ponies Red Kites game for that seeding match is going to be quite important. And then on the opposite side of Group B, it's going to be about who doesn't make it, rather than who makes it at the top. So that should be quite interesting to see. That is it for today's games. We only have the 2 best of ones to show for you tonight. We will have 2 more best of ones next week on Tuesday to figure out, well, who's going to be our final teams for playoffs and what that seeding is going to look like. I've been GoluMolu. I've been joined by Pasta for the first time, and back again next week.
Yeah,
back again next week. So we'll be rejoining you. I hope you'll all come back to join us. Until then, have a wonderful evening. We'll catch you next week Tuesday for some more Esports Wales action.